Welcome, and happy Tuesday. Happy Victory Tuesday. And special thank you to the OBR Streaming Network and OBR.com for hosting us tonight. My name is Joe Mazzullo. This is my man, Pete Smith. I'll tell you what, Pete, we got a weekend of mixed emotions, brother. They are very, very mixed. What did you take away from the game outside of Pittsburgh conceding victory just to keep Myles from breaking the record?
Well, I mean, it just reframes everything for the offseason. And if winning that game means Kevin Stefanski keeps his job, fine. Because ultimately, one, I think he made that job way less attractive by moving them down. Because now you sort of look at this situation, and you're just like, well, you've got Deshaun Watson, the 39th rated quarterback according to PFF in Dylan Gabriel, and the 40th rated quarterback according to PFF in Shedeur Sanders. And now you're sort of in no man's land relative to that position, at least in the draft, unless you love Ty Simpson. So that reframes everything. On the other hand, I'm a man who's powered by spite, and I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers with everything in my being. And I enjoy the fact that Mike Tomlin had to run his mouth about Andrew Berry trading Joe Flacco to then lose to Joe Flacco to then now lose to Shedeur freaking Sanders, who tried to give him the game in multiple opportunities.
Oh, he did.
Basically said, here, take it. Take the game. You can have it. And I was ready I thought it was going to be like an opportunity for, Shedeur Sanders to ask for Christmas gifts. I thought he was going to be basically implore Northeast Ohio, after delivering a draft pick, to sort of reward him for throwing that cross body pick with gifts. So, I mean, from that standpoint, it's great. I love the fact, there's no comparison between Myles Garrett and TJ Watt.
Yeah.
But if you live in Western Pennsylvania and you can't do math, which is a lot of people in Western Pennsylvania, you still hold on to this idea that TJ Watt is somehow better or even in the same conversation. Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin told you flat out, Myles Garrett is better than you will ever be, and we are willing to sacrifice potentially playoff hopes to prove that point. No one is ever doing that for TJ Watt, ever. And he had to sit there and watch the game on the sideline, and part of me was thinking to myself, he need to be like a Saw Gerrera setup with his lung thing, which unfortunate instance, but just a weird situation, to sit there and go, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, your head coach, said Myles Garrett is the best player on the planet, and I'm I'm giving away everything to make sure to keep him off the stat sheet.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did. Whether it was the conservative play call to the fact that Rodgers had that timer going off in his head and was so quick to get rid of the ball. I mean, look, it is what it is. It's a disappointing outcome for Myles to not get the sack record. But Myles even being in this position, I've said all along, sacks are a winning team statistic. And the fact that a team with 4 wins that has lost the amount of games that we've lost, by the amount that we've lost some of these games, the fact that he's even in the conversation is a feather in his cap. And whether he breaks it this week or not, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we've all seen the graphic going around Twitter with, him and his sack numbers in only like 460 pass rush attempts, whereas Strahan was in the mid 500s and TJ was in the mid 600s. It's crazy what he's done. So it's like, it's a shame he didn't get the record, but I mean, you're without a doubt correct. He's the best player on the planet. He's the best defender I've ever seen.
Well, he's going to almost certainly get the record this week against Cincinnati because he just destroys the Bengals.
Yes.
But to me, what the Steelers did was better.
Yeah.
He can hold this forever and go, I terrified an entire team off the field. Because that's literally what happened.
Almost possibly out of the playoffs. Because let's be honest, with the way Derrick Henry's running, they don't want to see that team next week.
I joked and slacked that the Browns should have offered the Steelers a win in exchange for 3 sacks. The Steelers should have taken that deal.
They should have. They absolutely should have.
Because this is infinitely worse. Like, if they don't make the playoffs because of this, he can hold this forever. Like this should be his Hall of Fame speech, and it should include talking about this game. Yeah. It should be part of his legend forever that he just scared the team off. Forget the sacks. Who cares? Like, don't get me wrong. I'd like them to have the record, but you can get into weird stuff with Deacon Jones and all these other things. Although head slapping was legal, and again, Deacon famously pointed out, if you go upside the head of a man or a woman, that it would stun them. There's all kinds of convoluted rankings with that because of the stat not existing officially until 1982. The sheer dominance and the terror inflicted upon an entire team. 4th and 1, they faded up Scotty Miller against Tyson Campbell. That's your play call?
Yep.
Yep. They've got 4 downs in the red zone.
Well, I can appreciate that they called their offense as though DK was out there, even though he wasn't. Like it was unbelievable. The one-on-one shots they were throwing to Scotty Miller all afternoon too.
Yeah. It was brought to my attention today that Adam Thielen is allegedly on that team. I had no idea because it never came up. I mean, look, the DK Metcalf thing was enormous. Don't get me wrong. But and like there's all kinds of, but it doesn't change the fact that like Aaron Rodgers' average time to throw is 2.12 seconds. Like he can barely get the shotgun snap before he's throwing the ball because he's just not. He wanted to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, like I get the fascination with the record. It's one of the all-time great seasons for a pass rusher. Like whether he gets or not, and I still think he will. And we can go 16 games, whatever. I think what the number you're citing, the pass rush attempts, is far more meaningful. But just having this game where everybody, unless you're Mark Kaboli, who's deluding himself and suggesting that, 100% the Steelers weren't worried about keeping Myles off the stat sheet. Everybody came out of that game saying that the same thing, that the Steelers were more worried about keeping Myles Garrett away from a sack than making the playoffs, than winning the division. So if they go out and lose, then God, I would love nothing more than if it's Tyler Huntley to go out and beat the Steelers team, that to knock them out of the playoffs. They will have to own that for an entire. Imagine the offseason they're about to go through.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. And you and I talked about this. Which team would you rather be, the Browns or the Steelers, heading, from here? And, if they don't make the playoffs, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be just awful. And this is where I get into this whole thing where people are like, I would kill to have Mike Tomlin be the head coach of the Browns. I wouldn't. And this is the stuff. What he's lost to now 2 rookie quarterbacks, 2 5th-round rookie quarterbacks to the Browns in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski's 5-1 at home against the Steelers. Obviously has the playoff win against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. DTR beat him. Shedeur Sanders has now beaten him. Like
Jameis. Yeah.
I mean, like it's just absolutely insane that this is the situation. But so now this kills the Browns in the draft. It doesn't seem like much to go potentially from 2 to 6, but it's significant. And at this point, go ahead and beat the Bengals, because the worst you can do is fall to 7. So go nuts. But what bothers me is the people who are sanctimonious on this whole thing and go, the Browns should be trying to win all the time. Well, here's the thing. The Kansas City Chiefs have 3 Super Bowls. They are currently in a 5-game losing streak. The second they were eliminated from the playoffs.
They got rid of everybody.
Everybody who's under contract next year, basically on IR.
Yep.
To make sure that they are losing.
Toe in Kansas City, you went on the IR.
And if there's a scenario where the Browns will pick 7th and the Kansas City Chiefs will pick 8th, and you're worried about the ethics and sort of the spirit of this thing, like they don't care. They've got 3 Super Bowls. They've still got Patrick Mahomes, and there's a world where you, who do not have a quarterback, are picking 1 spot ahead of them, and you're sitting there worried about the spirit of this crap. Like it's over in terms of that thought process. And like that's why I say if you're going to say that this game meant something, it's got to be that Kevin Stefanski keeps his job, because if you take that element away, then it was a complete waste of time. It absolutely means nothing. Don't tell me about it's good for the players and built for the culture. If you're then going to just turn around and fire the culture.
Yeah, I agree completely. If you're looking to move on from Kevin Stefanski, that win was the worst scenario for you, straight up. Because what have we heard all year with the people that are the Stefanski detractors, right? Always losing the team. They're getting blown out. He did not lose that locker room. Not at one point this season. And given the injuries and given just the way that the roster was framed for the start of this year, they had a paper-thin margin for error, and then it got hit with injuries. That's just the reality of it. He didn't lose the locker room. They beat the Steelers. And granted, that's a rivalry game. It's a division game. That could always happen. They took the Bills to the wire the week before.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss because I understand every argument and every side. I understand why people want to fire Stefanski, and you could absolutely do it. You could justify it. I understand keeping him. You can justify that too. My biggest thing with Stefanski is he came in here in 2020, right? And there was talent on the team. And what did he do? He organized it. He made it efficient. He made it a playoff team. We know what he can do with talent, Pete. We've seen it. And the fact of the matter is everybody's hanging these last 2 years as though Stefanski forgot how to run an offense. He didn't forget how to run an offense. That's what happens when you don't have tackles and you don't have a quarterback. And this year, everything was magnified with all the youth. I mean, I charge anybody. Find me a coach in the NFL that's going to win with this offense, that's going to win with this quarterback situation, that's going to win with the offensive line. I would love to hear it. And then tell me which one of those guys is available to hire. Like that's my only thing. I get it. I get on paper why we have to fire Stefanski, but it's not all black and white, man. You got to look at the gray.
The other part about that, which I thought was notable, they play their asses off against the Bills and lose. Then this week, Joe Bitonio comes out and said he echoes everything Joe Thomas did at the end of his career. Joe Thomas should just flat out say, I'm tired of changing everything every 2 years. It doesn't go anywhere. He had less of a leg to stand on from that standpoint because the Browns had never had a coach when he was there that was good.
Yeah.
Joe Bitonio comes out, who has had a coach that's had success, and he's like, this guy can coach, build around him. He's been successful, and we can get this thing going, which on its face is interesting because why the hell is Joe Bitonio saying this if he's truly done playing?
Yeah.
This is a week after Denzel Ward said, he's got our back, we've got his. So that could all be idle chatter until you go out and you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Joe Bitonio is the sort of elder statesman at this point, as was Joe Thomas at his time, and Denzel Ward's voice carries some, weight to it as well, as with Myles Garrett. But my understanding is that this is not a uncommonly held belief in the locker room. There's a lot of people who do not want to see this thing go, and there's a lot of reasons you can get into that. Young players, they've got no certainty. Like, we could talk about Shedeur Sanders all day. His career gets infinitely more rocky if Kevin Stefanski's fired. But there are a number of guys in that, and a lot of young players with uncertain situations. Regardless, they go out and win. So you can say it's for the coach, you can say it for themselves, whatever. They go out and get it done. That part was awesome. So that part sort of, actions speaking to the words that Joe Bitonio laid out there, which is good. The other thing I liked, which I think was really important, was, and I wrote about this after the game, was Kevin Stefanski's decision to give Carson Schwessinger the game ball. And this was important to me for two reasons. One, the absolute nonsense about game balls this year, to the point where Kevin Stefanski had to answer a question about giving out game balls after a win earlier in the year because Shedeur Sanders didn't get one when he didn't do much, even though Dylan Gabriel didn't get one. Because, at that point, it becomes like a participation trophy. And I get it. It's a starting quarterback, your first ever win as a rookie, all this other crap, whatever. Still not a participation trophy. To then have the opportunity where you show why a game ball matters. You give it to Carson Schwessinger. And what he said was awesome. And he basically used this as an opportunity to, just highlight this kid playing hurt. Said straight up, and Kevin Stefanski, not one for a whole lot of expletives, kept throwing him out there. Talking about playing on one leg, and the fact that the Browns obviously only have 4 wins, they haven't had a lot of chance to sort of like have your head coach shine the light on a kid like Carson Schwessinger. I thought this was really important for a few reasons. One, Carson Schwessinger is really good, but that's not the point. Carson Schwessinger, because there were fans, Tony Romo during the broadcast is saying, get him off the field. He's hurt.
I was screaming it.
Everybody's sitting there because
he was on one leg. It was crazy.
You lost Harold Fannin with the groin, and you're sitting there going, just get the rookies out. Just get him out.
Yep.
He's done enough. We don't need to see somebody get seriously injured. And Carson Schwessinger refused. He played every snap of that game.
Yep.
And you sit there and you go, well, what? And we got people ask this, well, why? Because Carson Schwessinger is earning the role of being a leader by playing through all of that, playing well, fighting through it, and all of it. Like, he's doing the things that you do in order to earn that leadership role. You're good on the field, so you have credibility, and then you have that toughness. And if you watch the clip, you can see how excited guys are for Carson Schwessinger when he gets that game ball, all this other stuff. The fact that I appreciate that so much is because Kevin Stefanski is sort of like, one, giving him his due, but he's sort of like letting everybody else sort of acknowledge the fact that this dude is stepping up to become a leader. And, I don't know that he necessarily needs to sort of acknowledge this, but he's saying it without saying it, that this guy has earned this. And so for me to contrast that against the nonsense around game balls, and it's not like Shedeur said, I need a game ball, but just the noise around it was so stupid.
Yeah.
This is what this stuff's supposed to be for, to celebrate a kid who really deserves it in this moment and what it actually meant. So I thought that was awesome. So that was the other benefit I thought of the victory and everything that this team has sort of gone through.
Yeah. And look, that whole game now, and Schwessinger's now 2 tackles away from the single season Browns record. He's 2 tackles behind DeQuell Jackson right now. He's had a phenomenal year. His defensive rookie of the year walking away. Just incredible. And the fact that he lays it all on the line like that in that moment with that injury. I mean, you said it, he couldn't even walk. He was one-legged out there, and every single snap he was getting scraped off the ground. It was pretty wild to see and pretty impressive to see. Let's swing back to the offense. Let's talk about Shedeur real quick. But I want to jump into the chat real quick and just, Pete, you and I haven't talked about this, but who was it? Jeffrey Champion brought up Malik Willis this offseason. And I was wondering what you thought about Malik Willis.
He's fun.
He's going to be, what's that?
He's fun. Like he doesn't have a long track record, but the flashes he's had are impressive.
Yeah.
As far as a lot of this depends on what the Browns really want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Do they want to get somebody where they're basically doing what Seattle did with Sam Darnold and saying, we're going to sign you and you're going to be our guy, or at least in a competition to be the guy? I think in the case of Malik Willis, you're basically pretty good shot you're going to have to give him the starting job.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's going to sign in Cleveland
to compete with Shedeur.
Given the other guys that are going to be out, the other teams that are going to be out there needing a starting quarterback. Arizona, Miami, the Jets again. There are a number of these teams where you could see them just being like, Malik, we'll just give you the job.
Yeah.
I am certainly intrigued by what I've seen. I like the athleticism. He does scare the crap out of me at times with the way he will hold on to the ball, but he's also just really gifted as an athlete.
Yeah.
And he makes some really good throws. So I love what Green Bay has done in terms of his development. I don't know that I've seen enough where I'm willing to hand him over the offense, but if the Browns sit there and go, he's our guy, who am I to argue with it at this point? Because depending on what else they do, and I wrote an article Monday talking about where the pivot I think is in the offseason stuff, some of the things they could do. If they're trying to supercharge this thing and go, you could do what Seattle did and sort of be right in the mix. And Seattle's obviously got a shot to win the division. They're right up there in competition for the 1 seed. Do I have faith that Sam Darnold can take them to the Super Bowl? Not really, but nevertheless,
they're in the conversation.
No one's going to argue with the results.
Yeah, of course.
So I get it. So are you willing to give him potentially like 2 years of guaranteed money and a starting job? I don't know that the Browns are willing to do that. And part of the reason I don't know that the Browns are willing to do that is because even if they don't love this or they find themselves out of position for this quarterback class, I don't know that they are going to sit there and go, we're willing to sit out 27.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where there's going to be a hitch. So I love the idea. I don't think he's going to get quite as much money as Sam Darnold did, because Sam Darnold obviously had a full season of track record.
Yeah.
Malik Willis has had like a couple really good games smattered over the course of 2 seasons where he's been really good in relief.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to like make it sound like I think he sucks, because I don't. But like Tyler Huntley looks pretty good when you just throw him in there for Baltimore, in that offense. And obviously turning a hand the ball off is a big part of what they do with him. But nevertheless, I don't want to get too overboard and go like Malik Willis gets you your franchise. I think the talent is really interesting. And I think there's a world where he could be really successful. I do not think he will be Justin Fields going to the Jets. I think
you're talking in terms of contract, right?
Well, no, I'm talking in terms of result.
Oh,
in terms
of
so
you don't think he's going to crash and burn. You think
I don't think he's going to suck.
Yeah,
I
would agree with that.
Go ahead. I don't know if he's going to necessarily be like turn your whole offense around, but that's the question.
Yeah, I could very easily see him being like I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously you remember this when the Bills got Tyrod Taylor, right? It was I believe he was a restricted free agent at the time, and I'm pretty sure Baltimore, they probably gave up a 3rd round pick to get him. Maybe it was a 4th round pick, something like that. But like Willis doesn't, like you nailed it. He doesn't have that long track record, like even like Teddy Bridgewater had like a 3-year, $60 million deal from the Panthers, right? And then Fields this last offseason. I could see him getting somewhere in the 15 to 20 range if somebody really likes him and somebody's out of, any sort of legitimate shot for one of the top 2.
Could be Pittsburgh. I mean,
yeah, Pittsburgh would honestly, that would be kind of a nightmare. I would not like that to happen. But that's another thing. Green Bay's a really well-coached offense. And that's a really well-coached football team. So like him going from that into Pittsburgh is not going to look the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that. And that's the hitch. Like he's got a good setup in Green Bay. It's not great. The offensive line has sort of gotten dinged up. They're missing some weapons. He's played well. So, that's why I don't think it's going to end up like Justin Fields. And Justin Fields never like looked that good anyway. But like, I think he will be pretty good. Is pretty good enough to take you out of wanting to be right in the mix for the 27 draft, given what's going to be potentially there.
Yeah.
That's sort of where it's challenging. And here's the thing. I have no doubt that Andrew Berry will call Malik Willis's agent and see what, he's interested in. He will do the due diligence, but will they actually pull the trigger on a move like that? My inclination is no, or I should say somebody will probably offer him a better deal than the Browns will, would be my instinct.
Well, let me ask you this. And I mean, obviously this would be a great question for Jack, obviously, but I wonder what kind of legitimate money we have to throw around at that position this offseason, given the other needs that we have on the offense and stuff like that. I mean, it's obviously, you're not guaranteed anything in free agency, right? But like, what kind of package could we put together with the Watson deal on the books and whatever kind of wiggle room we have?
I think they can do whatever they want. It just then causes you to change how you approach other things.
Yeah.
That's ultimately where,
that's the issue.
They can obviously
so many other things.
They can obviously give like basically no money on the books this year and like backload it, which is typically what they would do anyway. That's the other part of it. But like they have more money than people think they do, as they do every year. It comes down to what's available and who's willing to sort of either be signed with the Browns or potentially who they want to acquire in trade.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's an avenue where the Browns could spend very little money in terms of like, the name that he throws around quite a bit is Tyler Linderbaum, like that being your premium free agent. He throws around Rasheed Walker. I don't know that I'm necessarily excited about that prospect, especially now that the entire frame of the draft has changed.
Well, are you talking Linderbaum or are you talking Walker?
Linderbaum. No, if I had to choose between the two, I'd choose Linderbaum.
Yeah, no, me too. That's
And
I
then
was just confused.
the dynamic then becomes, the Browns were in this situation where they were at one point paying 5 premium contracts on the offensive line plus Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So if you going to clear off Jack Conklin from the books, Wyatt Teller from the books, Joe Bitonio, if he wants to come back, I'm here for it.
No,
so
me
if
too.
you were to get
Me
those
too.
two, you get a real leader. Not to say that Luke Whippler isn't or anything. I think he's a smart kid. But if you get like a very certain center that's like a plus center, a game-changing center, and then you can sort of draft the other pieces where you have 1 or 2 premium contracts on the offensive line and then a whole bunch of rookie contracts that ultimately that center contract is going to sort of work its way down as you go.
Yeah.
Then I think that, and Bitonio's, one more year at that point, or we're year to year at best. Then I think the way you sort of balance out that money works out in a fine way. And even in Jack's scenario, if you were to get Rasheed Walker, which I think is a little bit concerning, or I should say dubious prospect, but regardless, in his world, you get both of them, both Walker and Linderbaum, and you could still do that. I don't think you necessarily have to go that route, but I totally get it. But that's the point. Like, unless they're gonna in this now this scenario, they're gonna trade for a massive receiver contract because I don't think they're gonna sign one in free agency.
Yeah.
Then where's the money really gonna come from in terms of onloading more like cap? It's gonna be like if you resign David Njoku, that's gonna be a little bit more money. If you resign Joe Bitonio, that's going to be a little more money. But like the rest of it, it's probably going to be through the draft and second, third tier free agents. So you're really not adding a ton of money. You're largely getting young players and then keeping cap flexibility for what you hope is going to be now extending players already on your team. And I think that's where you can sort of have a good deal of flexibility for a player like Willis, if that's the direction they want to go. Or something else. But I don't think cash is the big problem. It stops you from, and I don't even know what giant free agent would be, but if there's like Reggie White-like presence, I don't think the Browns can make that play. But I don't see that player out there. And the NFL largely has, for the most part, almost gotten rid of that type of blockbuster player. They almost never hit the market anymore. Christian Wilkins was like the last one I can think of off the top of my head, and that was a complete disaster. So I don't get too caught up. I don't think the Browns are in a bad situation financially relative to what I see sort of on the landscape from here.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I'll give you just a little bit of pushback because I'm not convinced if this regime does come back, which I mean, hopefully they do. I think you and I both agree that this thing running back is probably our quickest path to like true sustained success, at least in my opinion. But I think if this regime does come back, I think you're looking at Shedeur, Watson, and Gabriel, and maybe a late rounder or some sort of journeyman free agent for a fourth camp arm. But I don't think it's going to be anybody of any sort of legitimacy. And honestly, if you're a veteran looking for a starting shot, why would you walk into this building? I mean, you've got a $47 million man sitting there. What's that?
Because your current team is garbage, and your current team is about to pick Fernando Mendoza in the draft.
Yeah.
You're
talking Geno Smith?
Oh, baby, look how it worked out.
It's not the only option, Peter.
No,
if you're Geno Smith, do you seek out Cleveland? Knowing that you got Deshaun there, you've got Shedeur and that giant spotlight and psycho fan base behind Shedeur, and I'm a Shedeur guy.
To me, I think Deshaun's just a non-factor for anything in terms of decision-making for anyone. Yeah. I just don't think I whether it's talking to Geno's agent or Geno asking the Browns, I think if they get right down to it, they're gonna be like, he's not really here. Like, he's in the building, but he's not really a factor because I don't think they can look. That's obviously gonna be a thing they have to navigate. But like, if they bring in a guy like Geno Smith and you're saying, look, man, you've got a pre-existing relationship with Shedeur Sanders, you are in a terrible situation with the Raiders.
Yeah.
Especially when Colton Miller went down, you had Brock Bowers, you had Trey Tucker, who I really like, but like they trade Jacoby Myers. That was it. Like you guys were cooked.
Yeah.
and I think some of this would be like showing him by like doing stuff, to build up your team. I think there's ways that they can do that. But like if you're Geno Smith, how choosy can you be at this point?
No, of course.
I just don't know.
I mean, he can be
otherwise,
choosy-ish. There's going to be other jobs available.
Is he going to be a Steelers quarterback now? Like
he could be. He could be a Dolphins quarterback.
Good. I don't know if anyone. I don't know how attractive that is, and I don't know how they're going to handle the Tua situation or the Mike McDaniel.
You just say you don't know how attractive a South Florida $1 million job would be, Pete.
Well,
with no state income tax, it's plenty attractive, sir. Let me tell you.
Really get that many players?
Yeah. Well, the problem is Chris Greer traded for everybody. That's why they traded for everybody. Then they paid way too much for everybody, and now they can't afford anybody. That's why Javon Holland went to New York. That's why they let Wilkinson go to the Raiders. That's why Andrew Van Ginkel went to the Vikings.
Yep.
I mean,
the other question I have, if you're the Dolphins, and I don't know if this necessarily impacts the decision or not, but there's going to be a whole bunch of people leaving Miami, player-wise, in addition to whatever they do. Chris Greer is obviously going to be replaced, and we'll see about McDaniel. More than likely, Tyreek Hill is gone.
Yeah.
There's some other players that are likely to be walking out the door. I think Bradley Chubb might be walking out the door, whatever. If you're Geno Smith, does it feel like you're walking into a situation that's just like going further in the toilet, or are you going in there thinking this is going to be a better situation? I don't know the answer.
But that's the thing, though. It's all about perspectives, though, because you and I have a healthy perspective of the Browns. The rest of the world does not match our enthusiasm for the good position that the Browns are in.
Well, that's why I wonder. Well, Geno Smith got to see the Browns.
Yeah.
He got to see them.
Yeah.
He got to see what that defense does.
Yeah.
And he may sit there and go, if they just get a couple pieces, like I can be off and running. The Raiders did not have this defense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I don't know. I feel like maybe the pre-existing relationship with Shedeur Sanders is a benefit in that scenario. But ultimately, I don't know if that's what Geno wants. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, if you're the Browns, it doesn't have to be Geno Smith. I just think that one makes a whole lot of sense because you get him for a year.
Yeah.
You could theoretically re-sign him again if you wanted to, but then you're right where you want to be, sort of in the mix for 27 to be in that position. You will have a better working understanding of Shedeur Sanders. Not that he necessarily needs to be a finished project in another year. He could theoretically take, I don't think of it like that, but just in terms of, where this thing is going. But like, if you're Geno Smith, I think first and foremost, you just get me the hell out of Las Vegas. This sucks. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he's going to be there and watch either Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza. So, and the Raiders don't have a whole lot of benefit in keeping him. They could just re-sign Pickett if they want to back up. So I don't know. That one just stands out to me. Like, there aren't a whole lot of guys out there where I sit there and go, man, that's a real easy option, because otherwise I think you're just, I don't think you can go back to Joe Flacco again. So I don't know the obvious guys in that. So Geno Smith is the one that sticks out to me. One, because I think he's a credible quarterback. And you know how this goes too. How many teams go out and get somebody who looked good against them?
Oh, yeah.
And Geno Smith took a hellacious beating from the Browns.
Yes,
and
he
still
did.
Still had opportunities to beat them. Yeah. Threw a bunch of really nice balls in that game. So I don't know. That's just the one that sort of stands out to me as a nice option. Like, people throw out Mac Jones. The Browns talked to Mac Jones. Mac Jones said, I want to go be in the 49ers offense. Well, he's under contract. Now, if he told you no now, do you really want to go give it assets for him?
Yeah. You want to trade him for 1 year? Yeah.
Do you want to trade for the backup quarterback in Houston? Like, none of these are very interesting. And I'm sure some other guys will come out that'll be interesting. But, like, last year it was Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Like, Kenny Pickett could be a free agent too. Would I rather have Geno Smith or Kenny Pickett? I'm taking Geno Smith. So, like, that's where I sort of end up in this. So I'm open to other possibilities on this. That's the one that just stands out to me as something that could work effectively for what they have. Otherwise, you're looking at like Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson and, these other guys that they just don't move the needle in a way that other ones could. Or you're talking about, and you hate this as much as I do, Kyler Murray. Like, do you not want to do that? Like, Jacoby Brissett, maybe.
But I think
Jacoby
Murray
Brissett,
might be the only option I hate more than Tua.
Jacoby Brissett is interesting, but like,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Would I rather have Jacoby Brissett or Geno Smith? I'd rather have Geno Smith. Now, the Browns might really like Jacoby Brissett, might be interested in that matchup. I don't know. But, like, I have a very difficult time seeing the Browns sort of get in the business of being out of the 27 draft. I think they can talk themselves into being out of 26. Their positioning can talk themselves out of 26 and all those things. But, like, 27 is the one where, like, you know, we're going to see two of the quarterbacks who could be go high in that draft, not only play in the playoff, but potentially play each other in Julian Sand and Gunnar Stockton. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not including Manning. That's not including Jaden Mayave at USC, who looks really, really promising. That's not including whatever the hell happens with
Raiola.
Well, yeah, I mean,
DJ Lagway's another one that's
transfer portal guy. Sure, you've got, you know. You've got Sellers at South Carolina, whatever that's going to turn into. Like, it's an interesting class, and you could see some guys really move the needle that weren't expecting. And, you know, my guy, Josh Hoover, may end up in Indiana, you know, after being really fun at TCU. If he ends up in Indiana, I could see him, like, skyrocket in terms of how he's profiled. So
that'd be a hell of a deal.
Those are all – I think the Browns are going to want to make sure they're in that class. If it's a class where 5 guys could potentially be in the first round, I think they absolutely want to be in that class. So we'll see. I do want to get to the game, though, because the first half, the offense looked great.
Yes, it did.
I was blown away by how well Shedeur Sanders read zone coverages, the Steelers zone coverage. He found the holes consistently. He knew where to go. They had a really good plan to start out with. Like, that part of the game was impressive. You know, obviously, Harold Phantom was really good. That ball to Cedric Tillman was unbelievable.
Yep.
He looked like a professional quarterback particularly on those first 2 drives where the Browns just cruised and scored 10 points.
So let me just add this about Shedeur, because I'm with you. I think it was a tale of 2 halves. I feel like the first half he was super comfortable. He was on point with all his decision making. It was very, very nice. The second half, the second interception was like worthy of throwing my shoe at the television. That was such a bad ball and a bad decision in a rough spot. That was a tough one. And I will also say this about Shedeur. This was the worst I think we've seen him throw the football, and I think that's because of his pinky. I refuse to believe. I mean, it's not coincidence that the week after he gets his pinky split in half, he throws the wobbliest passes we've seen him throw all year. He's had some shaky accuracy there. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, he made enough connections and he made enough good decisions that it covered it up. But he had an ugly game throwing the football, Pete.
I don't think it was the pinky. I think it was the weather.
Well, I mean, the weather, windy, obviously. But we've seen him throw a better ball in bad weather before.
Yeah, but I mean, like, particularly the second quarter, when I thought the rain was at its worst, is when you saw the ball. Now, the other part that has been a thing for Shedeur and certainly popped up at his pro day is when he tries to overthrow, and he did this at pro day, he really tried to rip it. It started to sort of flutter and flop on him and actually slow down in terms of velocity. Yeah. I think that was also part of it. But, like, whether or not it was the pinky, I find very, very difficult to believe. But I did feel like he had more trouble gripping the ball in this game at points than he has all season. That being said, I also thought there are a couple of times, man, he's making really good throws in weather. And I, again, understood the timing of the offense. I thought he was really good on the timing, particularly to Jerry Jeudy finding holes in the zone. Yep. That connection was.
Jeudy made a couple of tough contested catches too. I like going over the middle, making. That's been his issue this year. Is he's dropped a lot of those balls. I thought he played a nice game.
Yeah, so I mean, like, just in terms of, I was stunned at how effective he was to come out, because I thought the Steelers were going to basically get on him like they did Dylan Gabriel, where it's going to be endless amounts of pressure. Now, some of that is credit, at least early in the game. The offensive protection was creaky, like it was in some very tight spaces, but I thought they held up really well early. And they had some answers for when they tried to send overload pressures and just outnumber them. Obviously, as the game went on, particularly Alex Highsmith, but just the Steelers pass rush started to have a bigger impact. The pass protection was not as effective, and you led to both Shedeur Sanders taking some sacks, making some decisions that weren't great. Obviously, the throw back across his body, he had two, W2TF plays, which he just cannot have. Like, the throw back across his body was enough to make Jameis Winston blush. Violated any number of cardinal sins related to playing quarterback, and you just can't have it. Yeah. The one where Nick Herbig just drops the ball was bad. Yeah. And part of my problem with, I think one of the habits that Shedeur Sanders seemingly has right now is when he throws to a check down, he's so unhappy about it that he doesn't take it seriously. And it feels lackadaisical at times.
Yeah,
and
he's begrudgingly flipping it out.
Yeah. So, and it's just I have to take it. And it's weird to say it feels like he has a 7-on-7 mentality in that moment, because the play, it's not going where I want it to go. The play doesn't develop, and I have to take this. And it's just sort of and he doesn't seem to appreciate the repercussions at times. It happened with the interception against the Bills, where, he couldn't get the ball around the defensive end, and he tipped it up in the air and caught it. It just seemed like he was well, I get to take the check down and we move on. Yeah. And there's still defenders there. And this time it was well, I have to take the check down over here. Well, I'm just going to throw it out there. And of course it's going to work, and almost went to the house. And that's the stuff where I get sort of frustrated with Shedeur, because there are areas where I think he's getting a whole lot better. And then there are areas where I just think whether you want to call it boredom or whatever, he gets frustrated and he just doesn't seem to stay engaged the way you need him to, which is, I think that cross body back throw was just a situation where I think he was tired of the offense not moving, and wanted to try to make a play happen. Yeah. Yeah. Which, you can sit there and go, yeah, he's trying to make a play, but he cannot do that.
No, under no circumstances can you do that. First of all, it was 2nd and 5. It was close to midfield. You're in great field position and you have a lead. There's no scenario where that should even enter your mind, let alone that's the play that we make. And I feel like the close-up picture of his old man in the booth, just throwing his hands over his face, is all you needed to see. And you could tell in Shedeur's demeanor on the sideline. He knew exactly what he did. He knew exactly what the moment meant and how it absolutely could have cost him the game. So hopefully, not hopefully. He's a young player. He's going to make mistakes. You're going to grow from these things, and it's so funny. We judge Shedeur on a week-to-week basis, and we praise him for the things that he does well, but then we kind of get on him when you do the same mistakes, this and that. He's still inside of a bad offense. He's still inside of an offense that is light on weapons, light on protection, and heavy on pressure. That's a tough situation for anybody. I can't say enough good things about the way he's carried himself off the field. I mean, you can argue, back and forth about what the on-field play has been. The turnovers are too much. He does hold on to the ball too much sometimes. He'll make the WTF plays. He does all that stuff. But, man, he's been really clean off the field, and he's shown enough signs that I really am intrigued with this kid's growth. I really would love to see them, at the very least for this offseason, to just surround that position with talent and let him go.
Well, I mean, I think at this point they have to.
Honestly.
I mean, man, that's part of it. We talked about this. What's the best way for Shedeur Sanders to make sure he's in the conversation?
Win ball games.
Quarterback. Yeah, win.
Yep.
Simple. If the Browns are picking second, his livelihood is way more at risk. So what do? You go out and win. And we can sit there and go, oh, man, the defense, this and that. The Browns scored 10 points in the first 2 drives, and the Steelers basically conceded before that they even got to that. So, fine, we can say what we want about the offense. I mean, losing Harold Fan was enormous. They were throwing to Sal Cannella, which great story for him. I mean, he's a former UFL player, has been in multiple, developmental leagues, and now finally gets his opportunity to get an NFL game and catch a couple bats, which is great. But that's
they called his number on 3rd and 7, Pete. I was ready to lose it when I saw that.
Fourth down. Fourth down.
What was that? That was 4th. Oh my God, you're right. That was 4th down.
So I mean, that gives you sort of a hint of how things are going.
Yeah.
when it's 4th and 7, you're going like Sal Cannella. I mean, both teams had some curious. I think Sal Cannella call was more defensible than the 4th and 1 to the shot to Scotty Miller against Tyson Campbell. But like, nevertheless, like, this is where you're at, where a guy named Sal is your big call up on 4th down. I mean,
yeah,
that was obviously a huge element in the game. Harold Fannin going out was
Fannin had a huge package in the game plan. I mean,
yes.
he's Shedeur's favorite target, and he's their best player right now offensively. I'm sure the majority of the game plan was going through him.
Right. So you had Harold Fannin and Jerry Jeudy working. That part was working, and then you couldn't really get anything else. And Harold Fannin goes out. Now it's easier to limit Jerry Jeudy. They got the one big play to Tillman, didn't get much else, and it just sort of stalled out. I mean, and that's where I can complain and bitch and moan and all this other stuff, and I will. But the Steelers have talent. Let's be honest. They're not, I can complain about their defense and go, what are you doing? And I know, this is part of what brings me joy about this victory is I know many Steelers fans who hate Terrell Austin with a passion.
Yep.
But like, they have dudes. They have a whole lot. Like Nick Herbig's a really good player. If he couldn't catch the damn ball, but he's a really good player. Alex Highsmith
was the best player on the field Sunday.
Yeah, which is really funny because there's a whole lot of Steelers fans who would like to get rid of Alex Highsmith to try to like build up other things. And he just showcases his value right there by just absolutely taking over the football game.
The guy you should get rid of is the only one you can't get rid of thanks to that contract.
This is true.
Yep.
So they've got a lot of good football players. So like, say what you will. And this is where, one, I give Shedeur a ton of credit. Two, Harold Fannin is a really goddamn good football player.
Yeah.
And three, like, say what the Browns are coaching this group and getting production out of this. So to your point, like, and I've said this all along, like when they get dudes, they use them and they get the most out of them. And Harold Fannin is setting all kinds of weird records in terms of, age and, production as a rookie tight and all these other things. He's like part of a very, very small group of guys with like 700 yards and like 6 receiving touchdowns.
Yep.
Just it's been phenomenal. And they are basically have decided that like they are going to build the offense out around him and Jerry Jeudy. And, this is why I get excited about the prospect of, add one more big time receiver and holy shit, let's go.
Yep.
But like credit where it's due, Shedeur did really, really well in the first half. And then, as much as we can sit there and I can be frustrated and those two, WTF throws are what they are, and they are every bit that bad. Some of this is the Steelers figured out what the Browns were doing and were able to counter. And you can sit there and go, well, the Browns didn't adjust. And I'm watching them adjust over and over and over. They're doing all kinds of stuff, putting them in empty, trying to run different motion stuff, trying to run the ball, all this stuff. The Steelers have talent. They can shut it down and sort of limit the damage that the Browns could do, particularly when their best playmaker is out.
Yeah, and when you're a one-trick pony, it's hard to adjust when somebody takes that trick away. Not for nothing.
Well, I mean,
the Browns are ill-equipped. They're ill-equipped to adjust to a defensive game plan. Like, if they come out with a good first half and the defense makes adjustments, like, that was our best shot.
Yes.
Like, what do we do?
The thing is, like, and there's more focus with this in the NFL, but, like, generally, preparation and coaching and all that game planning stuff is the first half.
Mm-hmm.
The second half is usually talent. And college is the easiest place to showcase this. Like, how many times have you seen a top-ranked team sort of in a dogfight for a half and then just beat the doors off
every single game this season?
Yeah. Like, so, like, that happens. And, like, the Browns defense, they can hang. They can sort of take some punches and then come back in the second half and play better because they have enough dudes to do that. The offense basically gives you everything it's got, and then it's diminishing returns from there on out. And some of this, like, I can sit here and go, oh man, Shedeur Sanders isn't getting better. I do think he's getting better, but like, it's naturally going to have some diminishing returns. The other part is he needs all the experience he can get. He needs to see this stuff as much as he can get, and he needs to figure it out. So even though I'm firmly on they have to bring somebody else to compete with Shedeur Sanders, I'm excited about watching him play against the Bengals. I'm excited about what this kid can do with an offseason. I can't just immediately project that Shedeur Sanders is going to be way better next year. In the same reason, I'm not going to sit here and project that Dylan Gabriel won't get any better between now and next year. But I have to bring in something else. I cannot just roll in the next season with what, at least right now, the 39th and 40th rated PFF quarterbacks and be like, nope, this is our room. Like, that's unserious, particularly if you're going to keep Kevin Stefanski. But even if you don't, the new guy is not going to sit here and go, this is my room. Like, you're immediately just resigning yourself to another terrible season potentially and going there. Like, the Browns are going to try to compete and win, and they should. And even though, we could talk about the 27 draft and all this other stuff, they're going to have to go out and try to win a whole lot of football games. And then if they, if they're in a situation, either they can, with one of the top quarterbacks, they can, if they've got a nice solid foundation, we're not going to be as worried about, man, we can't trade up picks because we've got 30 other things we got to do. Now we've got a really solid foundation. Maybe there's still some pieces we got to go, but now we can trade up and make the move and go get the quarterback and do what the Buffalo Bills did with Lamar Jackson, or with Josh Allen, with what the Ravens did, a small jump for Lamar Jackson, with what the Kansas City Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes. Set up the better foundation. In many ways, it's probably the sounder way to do it, but you got to take the quarterback when they're there and do it that way. But like, they've got to go out there and try to put their best foot forward, to your point, which is like, and obviously even if we were at 2, and, if Dante Moore was to come out, I was still going to be hesitant about not just taking a whole lot of picks and doing this anyway. Just 6, unless and we'll see. Ty Simpson's going to get to go play Indiana. And if he can go out and destroy Indiana and look great, maybe the whole conversation changes. But unless they fall in love with him, I think they're going to be on to the other stuff. Yeah.
Well, look, it's so early in the process, and I've been having arguments regarding all this draft stuff, and people are pissed. People are like, oh, we're going to miss out on this guy. We're going to miss out on that guy. You go back a year ago, Pete, Jackson Dart's a 3rd-round pick. Shedeur's a top 2 pick. It's not even a question. We don't know anything about Gray Zabel except that he's probably a 3rd-round pick. Carson Schwessinger is a mid-round pick in December of a year ago. I mean, all this stuff still has to play out. We need the interview circuits. We need all the measurables, all the age stuff, all the workout metrics. We need all that stuff. So it's like, it's so tough to say, well, this guy's probably gone, that guy's probably gone. But in that range, as of right now, like, we know, like, the offensive tackle situation, we're looking at Spencer Fano, who's a little bit light in his loafers for my taste, at only 300 pounds, but whatever. He's 20. He's going to grow into it. He's going to get.
I'm sorry, he's not 370. I'm sorry, he's not a kaiju for you. We got to get the Godzilla-sized tackles for you to have enough heft.
They don't have to be Godzilla-sized tackles, Pete. I am well aware that we have lost the battle up front from a physicality perspective for a long time. A long time. We had 1 year in 2020 where everybody was healthy and Conklin was at the top of his game. That we dominated. We were phenomenal right then. But look at Conklin's 325 pounds. Conklin's a strong kid. He's a big boy. And don't get me wrong, I like Spencer Fano, but he's 20 years old. How much impact is that going to be as a 20-year-old rookie? That's a man's game there.
You just said it. He's 20.
Yes.
He's 20. What's going to happen? What's going to happen when he gets to be 23?
That's fine. But what's going to happen to my quarterback when he's only 20 and he's
still
getting
block.
touchdown bull rushes, man?
He's still going to block.
That's a legitimate concern. That's why I'm a Mauagoa guy. I like the Miami kid. That's my poor man's Penny Sewell.
Well, unless he's a guard. That's
Mauagoa?
Maui Noah, but yes, I know how it's spelled, but I know how it's pronounced. It's the worry I think for people with him is, one, he plays like a guard, and 2, they're worried he's gonna have short arms. Now, I don't care about arm length.
Ruben Bain too.
Yeah, Ruben Bain is 31-inch arms.
T-Rexes down there. What's that all about?
That is not good for him, considering Mason Graham was stubby at 32, Aiden Huntington was stubby at 32. Denzel Ward's arms are 31 and 1/8 inch long. Like 31, if that's true for Bain, that is going to be a disaster. And I hope he does well in Cincinnati. But one, I love the way Spencer Fano plays football. He gets after it. And I will live with that for an extent. And the big thing with a guy like Fano, however, I don't care. if he is legit 6'6" or 6'5" and change, that's going to help him quite a bit. It should mitigate it. I don't know how long his arms are, but nevertheless, if height is more important at tackle than arm length. But like for me, it's mentality. So much of it. Granted, there's nothing to change the fact that weight room strength and all that stuff matters in your ability to get out of it. But like when you watch Utah, he consistently wants to get off the ball and get after people. And if the Browns are here, and I'm going to reason my way through this and say that Mike Bloomgren, based on the bringing guys like Tevin Jenkins and KT Leviston, is going to go back to his roots and get guys who he would want to get at Stanford.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's going to see in this kid. And he's 20. So yeah, it's a developmental element to it, undoubtedly, but I don't care. Like you're highlighting all the reasons I want him. It's, and the other, that's going to be the same thing with Caleb Lomu, and he's got a weird range of outcomes. I could see him go super high. I could see him middle of the first round, somewhere in that neighborhood. Similar deal, but I don't think he's got the nasty to him. Yeah. That I think he might be a slightly better athlete, but Fano's got the nasty in terms of how you want guys to get after it. And I think that's the mentality that they want to have. So that's where I think he's really interesting. So like from that standpoint, this is and I don't think people appreciate this. You said it. It's a long way to go. I think if the Browns are picking 6 or 7, Carnell Tate is gone. You just mentioned it with Ruben Bain. I think he's gone. If Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore both in the draft, they're both going to get picked, presumably. If Dante Moore stays, and by the way, I suspect that about 4:00 on Sunday, the entirety of Northeast Ohio decided he probably needs another year of college. But after that, who's the obvious premium position player that's going to go? And Arvell Reese, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the Giants.
No. Maybe Caleb. Maybe. But I doubt
that's the problem.
It just doesn't call for it.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of people will talk about, well, Caleb Downs and stuff. Well, okay, Kyle Hamilton went 14th. Ed Reed went 19th. Like the last safety that went in the range we're talking about, and I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibilities just because of the lack of premium players, was Jamal Adams, who went 6th. They don't go that high. They just don't. And every year, we're sitting there going, when there's these guys, we're all sitting there going, how are these people not picking this player? And then they fall to a team. Micah Fitzpatrick went 11th. So I don't think that Caleb Downs is going to go in front of where the Browns are picking. So who are those guys? And you get to the premium guys who matter. Caleb, that Carnell Tate is right there.
Yeah.
Jordan Tyson, I hope somebody takes him in front of the Browns. I love his game, but my God, his medical history is an absolute nightmare. Yeah. Tore his ACL, MCL, and PCL, I think, as a freshman. Had a collarbone in 2024. And then 2025, hamstring and everything else kept him off the field. And are you going to take him in the top 10 and be like, no, I'm sure this guy's going to be healthy for us? I'm not. I mean, how many people complain about Cedric Tillman getting a hamstring? He was a 3rd-round pick. You're talking about a guy in the top 10. So I don't think that's realistic. And I love Mekhi Lemon, but he's 5'11" and he's 195 pounds and he's probably a 4-5 guy. And those guys, again, if he can put up the similar agility numbers as JSN did, which is like a 6'5", 7'3" cone and a 3'9" or something shuttle, great. Then sign me up. I have no problem. But failing that, I don't think he's going to go quite that high. So you run out of options. So is a tackle going to jump up there? Okay, maybe. I don't think Tennessee's going to take that. If they're picking in front of the Browns, they could theoretically take Arvell Reese. But you run out of these options and you sit there and go, well, all these teams could use more wide receiver help. And Carnell Tate is probably going to end up being the top receiver in the draft, which is why, if he's there at the Browns pick, look, I'm loving life and I'm happy to take him, but I don't think it's realistic or likely anyway. So I'm immediately looking elsewhere. And that's where I sort of get to, we'll see what Maui Noah measures in at. We'll see how teams view him. But I suspect we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about Utah. And those two, and depending on how they fit, I don't care. Don't tell me about right tackle. I don't care. Yep. Tackle is tackle at this point. In some ways, I think right tackle is honestly more valuable if you can get – well, a lot of this depends on how you frame your running game. And the Browns have an opportunity to sort of reframe it. Because for the years and years and years, since 2020 and Kevin Stefanski's been here, but really longer than that, they've been a right-handed team. They've had the meat with Jack Conklin and Wyatt Teller on that side. Joe Bitonio has been a move player. They had J.C. Treader, who was a move player. Mm-hmm. You could send all those guys, and you'd largely go to the right. Doesn't mean they didn't run left. Certainly they did that with Jedrick Wills, but they've been a right-handed football team. Now, given the current situation, they could theoretically flip it and make themselves more of a left-handed team, but my suspicion is they're still going to be a right-handed team. So if Spencer Fano is a really good run blocker and he is just, comfortable at right tackle, I think they're just going to put him there and to hope to be what you just talked about, which is that he is a Penei Sewell-like player or an Armand Membu-like player. And if, nobody's going to sit here and go, man, I don't want Penei Sewell because he's not a left tackle. Like, he's one of the most impactful linemen in the league. Yep. And everybody puts their pass rushers wherever they can. So, like, obviously the Steelers put T.J. Watt on the defense's left, offense's right. Trey Hendrickson was on the offense's left. Defense is right. Like,
end, isn't he?
Huh?
Yeah. I think Crosby's a left end, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you're going to have to deal with it. Like, pass protection is invaluable everywhere. You need 5 guys who can pass block. You really got to figure out where you want your run blocking to sort of matter. You can theoretically, and if with DeJuan Jones, you could theoretically hide a mediocre run blocker on the left side if your right side was good. And we saw it even when DeJuan Jones was playing his rookie year, the difference between DeJuan Jones at right tackle running the football versus when they had James Hudson III in there and they ran over the Ravens. Like,
Yep.
So, like, to me, I think right tackle is incredibly valuable from that standpoint. So I don't fault that part of it at all.
Well, Pete, let's talk about this. Now, I've been thinking this for a long time out because as we've noted before, I like Shedeur as quarterback, and I like the idea of eyes on 27 for when we make our next big swing at quarterback if necessary. What would you feel about going O-line for both picks in the first round? And the way that the board might ultimately unfold, it's reasonable. And the one thing that I will say is that our pick at the top of the second, I feel like that's going to be a hotbed for receiver talent as well. There's like a second layer of the draft with our boy from Florida State, the big kid, Deuce Robinson. All right, there's another one. Denzel Boston looks like he's going to be in that range. Mekhi Lemon could ultimately fall in that range. Like there's definitely guys. I mean, the kid from Louisville tearing his ACL absolutely sucks because he would have been likely in that range.
Yeah. So, it's interesting you mentioned this because that's the scenario I laid out for the article I wrote for the OBR for those who are subscribed, which is involved a trade and trading for a receiver in the league now, and then using both first-round picks to build a line and basically supercharging theoretically your offense right away. I don't hate the idea of doing it. And look, this is sort of where my pivot has gone to. Mm-hmm. If Carnell Tate is ultimately going to be off the board, then I'm looking at the line. And I'm looking at, we'll see where they end up. But like right now, my favorite would be Fano, just where we are right now. But
what do you think about there's a couple of Big Ten kids I like at guard. I like Vega Ioane from Penn State. And I like how about Jennings Dunker from Iowa? That's your boy.
Yes. So, yeah, this is where things can get really fun to me. Because if you were to, if Joe Bitonio wants to come back a year, and you were to get Vega and put him on the right side, because I think that's really what he is. Mm-hmm. But, again, it depends how you want to structure your line. And get Fano, for example, and just put those two big dudes on the right and just be like, we're getting after it. Now, Jennings Dunker, I love the way he plays the game. He has the same attitude to me as Fano does. Maybe even more so. He's just a dirty shorts, fire off the ball, wants to hurt people's feelings type guy, and he's not
got a
huge.
red mullet, Pete. I'm in.
Yes,
I am absolutely in.
And I don't know, I'm very curious to see how he measures, because I don't know that I necessarily immediately go, he can't play tackle, but I do think he'd be a really good guard.
Yeah, he's
now,
listed about like 6'5", 315, I think is what
he's listed. So we'll see. Now, if he comes in and suddenly 6'3.5", and that type of thing, he's older, not old. He's going to be almost 23 by the time the draft. So I certainly don't, jacked up and may yell, but that's perfectly fine in the age range for me.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. The other scenario, and you mentioned some of these guys like that haven't really decided on their draft status. Like Deuce Robinson, I don't think he's declared.
Yeah.
I hope he does, because I'm right there with you on that, especially now. Goddamn Browns. If the other thing I'm keeping an eye on is the left tackle from Texas,
Goolsby.
Yes, because if he enters the draft and he's sort of hanging out, I don't really know what his range is, but I've seen people mock him all over the place. I think PFF has him in like 49, 50 range.
Yeah.
I suspect he will go much higher than that, given just how he looks.
Yeah.
That if you could get into a world where you get like Fano and then Goolsby as your first round, it's just like, this is what we're doing, and we're getting after it. Like, that part is interesting. But I really do like the appeal of theoretically just saying, we're going to use 2 first-round picks on the right side of the line and just said, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, and we're getting after it. Particularly if you can get a guy like Linderbaum to sign up and sort of keep everybody in check and keep everything there. And that's why I like the idea of hopefully Joe Bitonio coming back for one more year, because just knowing Joe Bitonio a little bit, 2, listening to Mike Bloomgren talk about just how good Joel is relative to helping those guys out. Like, I think he could do a ton of good in there, but like, that is certainly really appealing. But whether it's, right now 6th pick and the 2nd round pick, or 6th pick and, Jacksonville's pick on the line and then getting receiver, whatever, that's certainly an appealing setup. It's just really a question now of which receivers are going to be available, because right this second, I feel better about the linemen than I do about the receivers right this moment. Now, that could change, and it always does, because I always find receivers I end up really liking.
But that's just predicated on you thinking that Tate is gone before the Browns pick.
Yeah, I mean, if he's there, turning the card.
That's no question. Yeah.
I mean,
so that's your at the moment, that's your number one for the Browns draft prospects.
Yeah. So we'll see if that changes, but like right this second, all these people are like, oh man, I don't know about this offensive line class. And I warned people at a time this was going to happen. Yeah. You're going to knock the line class. And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, wow, this line class is actually pretty good. I do want to hit it earlier and not wait, but I think there's a whole lot of guys that are really intriguing on the line that could make this thing go much easier. And if let's just use Shedeur as the example. He's the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Because he's here and I can sort of visualize what he is. He's going to look infinitely better if the Browns can really run the ball. He looks, one of the things I have sort of really enjoyed with him is watching him embrace playing under center and the stretch PA game. I think he's getting pretty good with his feet in that element of the game. But if they can do that and recreate sort of the effect that Baker Mayfield had when Kevin Stefanski's first year, where now Shedeur is in a situation where they're consistently playing in front of the sticks and he just gets to sort of pick targets. And at that point, he could have a better receiving cast than Baker Mayfield did in 2020.
Yeah.
Then I think
Mayfield didn't have a good receiving cast in 2020. I'll go to my deathbed with that one.
Well, listen, I tried to tell people at the time, no, he's a legend. Mm-hmm. No, he's not. He's very average. He worked hard, granted, but not that good. But whatever. That if you were to be able to make either a trade and get an impact player like I laid out, or just draft somebody. And again, I've said this all along. Like obviously the situation changes where like quarterback's now going to be potentially a priority for 2027. But if it's not, 2027 is going to be an incredible receiver class as well.
Oh yeah,
that you can just do it again and do it that way. So like I don't have a problem with the trajectory from that standpoint. But like, the other position, if they don't get a guy like Linderbaum, I actually like where the center class is going. because there's a bunch of tackles that I think they're going to end up playing center. The Indiana Hoosiers have a left tackle who can end up playing center. They have a center who's pretty good at center. Duke has a right tackle that has a chance to end up at center. I think there's going to be an opportunity for the Browns to pick somebody there if they can't get a big ticket item like Linderbaum. I personally love the idea of getting him for all the reasons we've discussed. But if they don't, I could see them go, late, third round or day 3 and get a pretty good center that can come in and be ready to go. And Luke Whippler, he's really good in pass protection right now.
Yeah.
Just does not give you much in the running game. Would upgrading the guard situation help him? Probably, but there's just not much of him. And that's ultimately, I don't know that that's going to change much.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, that's, I was going to ask you about Whippler. And, I feel like with a lot of fan bases, I feel like Luke Whippler, if you changed where he went to school, people might feel differently about his future prospects on the team. I like Whippler. I think he's a tough kid, but I'm kind of there with you. I feel like there's a lack of physicality that I would prefer to get a little more juice from my center in the running game. But again, I mean, pass protection's king, man. And like you said, if you can bolster the guard play around him, you can definitely work around that. JC Treader was a finesse guy. I don't think he was a power player by any stretch. He was he
was a dog.
Yeah. He was so tough.
Part of the problem, he was a finesse guy. He's a finesse guy. He's finessing the last 3 years of his career were on one leg.
Well, it doesn't change the fact that he's a finesse guy, Pete.
I know. But that's the thing. I would love them to get back to that, and I think that was the hope they were thinking they might get with Whippler. Maybe there's still a world where they can get that.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think he's gotten better with more reps and getting more comfort. And I'll be honest, I was surprised he held up as well as he did against the Steelers. I thought he was going to get mauled.
Yeah, so did I. I was very pleasantly surprised.
So, it's not a huge issue, but I do think there's going to be opportunities for the Browns to upgrade that position. So I'm sort of interested to see where they go with that. And then, like I said, I think I feel better about the offensive line class from here, and we'll see what measurements and everything does with these guys, and find out Spencer Fano is actually 6 foot 285, and then I will be pissed. But right now, I feel pretty good about the opportunities the Browns are going to be presented with. That I was a little bit more worried, say a month ago, where this thing is going. So declarations will matter. Fortunately, the Utah kids have both declared already. They could theoretically go back, but their head coach is now at Michigan, so I don't know if they're really in a hurry to do that either. So we'll see. Vega's in the draft. Jennings Dunker certainly, but I'm with the idea of yes, pass protection is king.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one of the many reasons I want to keep this coaching staff is I want Mike Bloomgren to get his guys he would want at Stanford and just get after people, because again, I go back to that Bears game, and every time I watch the Bears and I watch them just get after people, their pass protection's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not what they do best. They are at their best by just going downhill, getting after guys, and using that to sort of set up and bolster their play action game. And basically a lot of their play action is just run blocking.
Yeah. Well, and that's a hell of a way to wear down a pass rush too. Is just beat them over the head with a running game on first and second down and wear them down. Absolutely. And it's I forget who brought it up in the chat, but I saw one of you mention that we need to get some bullies on the offensive line. I think it might have been Chris, and I agree with that completely. I love that mentality. I love that physicality, and just the taking over a game in a second half. That was my favorite part about watching those games in 2020. I feel like he would build the lead in the first half with Baker and then just ground and pound all second half with Chubb and eventually Hunt. And I don't know, man, I would love to get back to that.
Well, what's interesting is every so often, people ask stuff on ATI and stuff on the website and be like, why aren't the Browns sort of embracing this latest trend? And one of those things is 13 personnel. The Browns are still among the lead in multiple tight end packages. This is the thing. A lot of the things people think are in vogue, Kevin Stefanski's been doing since he's been here. He just needs the pieces to do it. It's one of the reasons I'm hoping. Look, I'd like to resign David Njoku. at least to a 1-year deal, and then get another wide tight end to develop in there in this draft, along with Harold Fannin, and be able to do more of those things. Like they can get in 13 personnel if they want. In fact, one of the plays they set up particularly specifically for the passing game in this game was to get in 13 personnel because it forced the Steelers to get in base and then just took advantage of it. And this was something that Stefanski was doing when he first got here, and they brought in the dude from Atlanta along with the Joker.
Yeah, Austin Hooper.
Yeah,
they brought in Austin Hooper, and they drafted Harrison Bryant too. There was a moment in that season where Njoku was your third tight end, and people wondered about his future,
including him. So, if that's your flavor, and you want to run the ball and you want to do these things, this is your man. He's the guy who wants to do all these things. Now just give him the pieces, and hopefully that's going to be what they do. There are a number of tight ends in the class who I think are interesting. The one, but the thing is, I get very concerned about drafting more F tight ends, even though there are some guys I like. I think they desperately need to get another guy who can put his hand in the dirt. And granted, they are trying to do that a little bit with Fannin, but I think there's just some limitations with it. And I think he's ultimately always going to be better off in space.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they get a Y. One of the things I will be continuing to watch, in this playoff, I love Max Clare. Absolutely love him. Fluidity, all these things. And he's at least a willing run blocker. And the Browns historically have drafted guys who are really productive pass catchers. And then as long as, basically find the guy who's willing to learn and then just spend time coaching them on how to run block.
Yeah.
They did it with Seth DeVolve. They did it with David Njoku. They did it with Harrison Bryant. Max Clare, to me, is right in that sweet spot. We'll see where he goes. I've seen some people talk about him in the late second, early third round. Be a dream scenario in the third round if he's still sitting there. I doubt it, but who knows? But if they can get somebody else in that vein to develop those things,
There is somebody just brought up from the chat. His name is escaping me right now, but Notre Dame's got a tight end, big kid, 6'7", probably 260ish, somewhere in that range. I was watching him a little bit earlier today, and one free agent. And this guy, you turned me on to this guy when he was coming out of San Diego State 4 years ago. Our boy Bellinger for the Giants is a free agent. You are interested in that?
I have interest in it. Yeah, I liked him coming out of college there. Eli Raridan is the kid from Notre Dame who's got really good production. I don't know how old he is, but he sort of broke out this year in terms of production. Listed 6'7", 252.
Yep,
and he's a corn-fed Iowa boy.
Let's go, Pete.
I suspected he played line in high school.
Yeah,
I mean, just get me more road grade. There are things I can complain about with the Browns draft in 2025. And obviously somebody was constantly yelling at me during the Falcons game about how Xavier Watts relative to the Dylan Gabriel pick. But I like the message, obviously they didn't get the lineman. We need the line, but they drafted a whole bunch of guys that were attitude picks. Mason Graham, Carson Schwessinger, Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, and Harold Fannin are all, beyond the quarterbacks. Those are attitude picks. They're telling, we want to do this. We want to be, physical. We want to be bigger, and we want to win a certain way. And obviously the Browns are not good enough on the offensive side of the ball to do that right now with their line situation, even though Quinshon Judkins is really good for that. Harold Fannin can do that. Certainly those two with the ball in their hands play that way, and the defense can play that way. But that's where I'm hoping that that carries forward into this offseason, where they take that same attitude and we're this is who we're going to be. We're going to get these guys. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to build this thing. And then we're just going to coach guys up over, endlessly to make this thing work. And that's my hope for the approach. Everything sets up for that to be the approach. Yeah. So now it's a matter of going out and doing it. Hopefully, obviously the owner has to decide that that's, he's still good with this direction, but this, getting the whole conspiracy theory, I think this was always the plan. It's just a question of, I obviously I don't think they plan to lose this much. Yeah. Even though they can end up being 5-12 if they beat the Bengals. And I do want to get into that because for whatever reason, I actually feel really good about this game.
Yeah, they're going to win. I have no doubt in my mind that we're going to win. And it kind of makes me happy to know that we can't do any worse than 7. Like that's not
the first thing I checked because I was like, oh my God, they're going to destroy Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, how bad can this be? No, they did the damage. Beating the Steelers was the damage. But like, I just hope that that's sort of the mindset for the offseason. They're like, this is who we are. And I've said this like before, talking about like sort of my approach to how I would do the line. They got Tevin Jenkins. They got KT Leviston. Jenkins could be a free agent, but I'd love to re-sign him just because he's a big, nasty dude.
Yeah.
But use the whole, if we'll see what Bitonio does, but if Wyatt Teller's walking out the door, if Jack Conklin, I think he's going to retire.
Yeah.
He's not going to be back here anyway, but I do think he's going to retire. You're going to be no more anything with Jed Wills at this point. We'll see what they do with Cam Robinson and Ethan Posick. If he's going to be back, it's going to be like some mid-season pickup, unfortunately for him with the injury, that they use the entirety of the roster to just get like the dudes that fit this, because unfortunately the way that the roster was structured, they were sort of stuck in the situation where, they could cut Jack Conklin, but like they couldn't replace him.
Yeah.
Stuck with Wyatt Teller, they could cut him, but they couldn't replace him. So you were just sort of like in this scenario where we might as well stick with these guys and try to make it work as much as we can for the year.
And just hope they stay healthy.
Sign Cornelius Lucas, Tevin Jenkins. Ultimately, you have to trade for Cam Robinson and just try to get through it as much as you can. It hasn't worked, clearly. But now, without those limitations, that you can get like 8 dudes, 10 dudes, and just be like, these are the type of guys we want, and we're just going to coach them up and find the best 8 to 10, whatever. And they're all going to be this style, and we're going to do this. And not unlike the Browns took with the wide receiver position this past year in terms of like the tryout camp and bringing in 1 million guys and trying to figure it out. And ultimately they settled on Gage Larvadain and Luke Flourier and those guys. And Flourier is still sitting on the practice squad, and Gage Larvadain's on the roster. And they ultimately got Isaiah Bond, who I continue to be intrigued by. Mm-hmm. And they would later add Malachi Corley. And it was just this element of, we're just going to get a whole bunch of guys and figure out one of these guys can work. I hope they take that approach with the offensive line, because they're going to have so many roster spots to use now.
Yeah.
Other than Whippler and KT Leviston and DeJuan Jones coming back from injury, it's all wide open and Zach Zinter. I assume they're going to give him a shot, who looked, I guess, okay in pass protection, but gave you nothing as a run blocker in that game. So I'm kind of curious.
Doesn't that blow your mind? I thought his game was the complete opposite. I figured he'd be okay in a phone booth situation, but having him handle athletes was going to be his issue.
Well, the thing, like with him at Michigan, he was smart. Like he was always smart, but like his whole thing was he was supposed to be a big tough guy. And since he's been in Cleveland, I have not seen that sort of. I thought he was going to sort of fit that big nasty role, and I haven't seen it. And maybe I'll be curious to see if the Browns just decide, screw it, we're just going to roll him out there against the Bengals and get him some run, because he was fine in pass protection, was not good at run blocking.
At this point, I'd rather see him play than Jenkins or Teller.
Well, if Jenkins is healthy, I'd rather see him. But if he's still in the protocol, I'm not going to mess with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's not healthy, and
as opposed to Teller, and I know people are very upset at this notion that like Teller's not going to be out there, or that they're rotating or whatever. I don't care. Like that's what the money's for. He's been paid like $14 million a year for however many years. Like, okay, but you're not going to be here next year. They've got a guy that they want to evaluate, like see what he can do. And if you can't find, then they can move on. But like they don't have many guys attached to the roster, so they should use all of it to just get 1 million guys and see what they can find and get it work and coach them up.
So, ultimately it means nothing, but Joe Thomas did tweet out after the game a picture of Joel Bitonio running off the field, waving. It was like a back shot of it. It's basically like his last game in Cleveland Browns Stadium. His little teardrop emoji. And I would love Joel to come back. I really would. I think he's still playing at a high enough level. You could absolutely justify it. But I just don't know if he does. I think this might be it.
Well, if you're subscribed to the OBR, you might have some additional insight into that, because it's sitting on our we do have some knowledge on that.
Oh, really?
But I don't know what he's going to do. he said what he said about Stefanski, which he kept saying stuff where like he does not sound done. But he also got asked specifically about this, and he sort of like wavered. As
he might just be championing for his coach, though. Ultimately,
he wavered a little bit, but like the thing that he has been consistent with it. He hates the losing. He's tired, obviously tired of losing, but he loves being with the guys. Like he likes this locker room. He likes this group. And I just can't help but wonder if he's not going to be like, one, he may sit there and go, let's see what they start to do in the offseason.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. How much is he going to love the group if there's no Teller, there's no Conklin, there's no Posick,
That's very true. Yeah. You may get
he's ultimately like transitioning to player coach right now. He's the Jackie Moon of the Cleveland Browns offensive line, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's a world where it could be like where Barry Sanders, where like, Barry Sanders, I don't know if you ever watched the doc he did, but like he basically decided like all my buddies were gone. It was like, what am I still here for?
What am I doing? Yeah.
So I could see a scenario where Joel has that feeling where if like, those guys aren't there. Now, having said that, I do believe he golfs with Blake Whiteheart, so maybe he's there. And he likes the golf simulator.
Keep it going.
But like, I mean, these are that's real life stuff for him. But the other part about this is, you get the whole thing about like, I only get to do this for so long. He's had a healthy season relative to Joel Bitonio. Like the last 2 years were not healthy. Yeah. He's been pretty healthy. Obviously, he had the back lock up the 1 week, but like he's been good. Mike Bloomgren has already come out and said, I'm going to talk to him about playing again next year.
Oh, yeah.
And even if he doesn't, I'm curious to see if he's going to be able to sort of tear himself away fully, if he's going to try to be engaged in some sort of way. But that's a difficult choice for him. I'll be curious to see what he comes up with. But if he's sitting there going, man, I went through 2 years of suck, and I don't want to miss out on the year where it could get good again. I don't know. And if he believes that for one thing, and then we'll see. But the Browns going to play the Bengals. The Bengals won. Could Shedeur Sanders in this offense ask for a better matchup to finish the season with than the Cincinnati Bengals defense? Nope. It is DJ Turner and 10 guys named Fred. They got nothing out there.
Yep. Yeah.
DJ Turner's a really, really good corner. Don't throw to him. Yep. But man, they are not good.
And if you look at the offense, man, that's Cincinnati's issue, right? They're going to hang a lot of points on you, and you got to keep up. Not against our defense. For whatever reason, our defense has been a kryptonite for that offense, man. It's been able to get to Flacco and rough him up. It's been able to slow and frustrate the receivers. I feel like T. Higgins has better games against us than Jamar Chase does. I feel like Denzel has to be the least favorite player in Jamar Chase's universe.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Tyson Campbell element, I think, plays to the Browns' favor. I mean, look, Martin Emerson is really, really good matchup for T. Higgins. He's the right body type. But, Greg Newsome did a really good job in that game this year. Tyson Campbell's just bigger.
Yep.
And Tyson Campbell fits better for what he's going to face.
I was going to say, isn't Campbell basically just like a better version of Emerson? He's a little taller, a little rangier, the long arms. He's just got the elite speed.
Well, Martin Emerson is physically bigger than Tyson Campbell. Tyson Campbell is just really fast. I think Tyson Campbell is a better, more sound tackler by far. He's just better. He's just better.
He's better. Yeah.
But he's just not quite as big. And Martin Emerson's thing is he's a press guy, and he can do some of those things. But he's been really frustrating for Bengals receivers because that's part of the reason you got Martin Emerson was because T. Higgins was in your division, and you used to have George Pickens in your division. Now you have DK Metcalf in your division. Like these were reasons why Martin Emerson made a lot of sense. And Tyson Campbell does fit relative to that, and I think that part is going to be good. But Joe Burrow is going to compete. Mm-hmm. I cannot envision a scenario where he's going to just be like, do what Aaron Rodgers did. He's going to try to win. I don't know that the Bengals line is going to be a hold up. I feel good about Myles Garrett getting home in this one. If he doesn't, I think a whole lot of other people will. But to your point, the Browns defense matches up really, really well.
Yeah.
It's really just a question of can the offense generate enough points? One, is Harold Fanning going to play? I assume he's going to try. If he's not, that's obviously a huge loss for them because he's been such a huge part of the offense.
Yeah.
But then it becomes, you got to find ways to get Jerry G the ball. You got to find ways to get some of these Cedric Tillman the ball. You got to find other ways to get going. Maybe Njoku can come back and contribute in some way. And maybe they can run the ball better than they have in recent weeks. So, but just in general, to go from Bears, Bears, Bills, Steelers to now Bengals, I'm very curious to see how much better Shedeur can play. He obviously started with a very soft schedule, getting the Titans and the Raiders and some of these other ones, and they got a noticeable uptick in difficulty. Now it's going to sort of ramp back down. Are we going to see a more confident guy that's suddenly, putting together more drives, being able to sustain longer? Are we going to see just a better offense than what they've had? Are we going to see, maybe more shots to Bond, those type of things? I'm one, it helps. Again, we can talk about draft position. I in some ways it helps that like the Browns won this past week because it takes any pressure off to like think about that element, that they just get to go out and do this thing. So now I'm in this thought process of, man, I just want to see what they can do. And I'm very curious to see what he can do, because there's a part of me that, obviously it will start a bunch of irrational conversations. And I don't suggest that he's going to throw for 304 touchdowns or anything like that. Yeah. But I think there's a real world where he could play like 200 yards, 250 yards, and a couple touchdowns, and maybe he makes mistakes along the way. But I think he actually played really well in this game.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing for Shedeur. You need to not stop. You need to keep stacking strong performances. You need to keep stacking games where it's like, okay, I see that this is going in the right direction. We see the playmaking ability. We see the accuracy. Just keep building on it, man. Now, I feel like he's done enough in given our just current situation where we're going to be sitting in the draft, the amount of money we have available. I feel like he's done enough that you can absolutely justify rolling with him into next season. I just do. I've seen enough from it. I think you can justify it, man. Given our situation, our situation's unique, Pete. Deshaun Watson is sitting on this roster. You want to stick your head in the sand and say la 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 like he's not there. I get it. I don't want him to be the answer, and I'm not suggesting that he is. I just think this franchise is going to operate as though he's an option in that room.
I don't. Now I could be dead wrong. I've been right on everything else to this point. I had him dead to rights on this season. Next season, it's genuinely a mystery.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like I do not think the Browns are going to operate as in Deshaun Watson is a factor in terms of the starting job. I think more likely what would be to happen is we're going to try to build the room as best we can, and if Deshaun Watson comes in and just destroys camp and does all these other things and plays really, really well, then we'll allow ourselves to imagine that situation. At least that's how I would look at it. I suspect that's how they will look at it. But I cannot just roll with Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel in the next year. I just can't. No. I just cannot do it. I have to get something. And look, I can get something, a Geno Smith or whatever, and root like hell that Shedeur Sanders can beat him out, because that would be the best scenario for your franchise. But I got to have something there to push him. And maybe they think Dylan Gabriel can do it. I think Dylan Gabriel can be a better quarterback than he was this year. I'll be honest. I think if Dylan Gabriel came out and played this week, I think he'd be pretty good.
I do too.
Against his defense, in part just because, there's some element of misfortune for him that he was the first guy up.
Yeah.
Relative to this whole thing. The operation has gotten a little bit better and the schedule has gotten easier.
Yes.
To where I could see Dylan Gabriel playing better football now than when he was last in there. Doesn't mean I'm excited about him. It doesn't change my opinion of him coming out of the draft. I think he's, still at best Case Keenum.
Yeah.
But I do think he could play better. But I have to find something else that can compete and try to push this room. I've got to. I cannot.
That's the part of this that you're ignoring, though. Is this coaching staff and this regime selected Dylan Gabriel? They traded for Deshaun Watson. They selected Shedeur Sanders. They have a stronger belief in those three guys than you or I do. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I would love Geno Smith on this roster. I just don't know how realistic it is. I don't know how realistic that they're going to go after any of these guys with any sort of aggression. That's my only thing.
Yeah,
and I'm almost like setting myself up for not disappointment, just like getting my mind right for the fact that we are going to roll into next year with those same three as our quarterback room.
I think people drastically overestimate how attached they are to any of these guys. Yeah. And I think it was just because of their thought process. Not to say they don't like Dylan Gabriel. I think they like him just fine. I think it's the reason they picked him. But I think it had to do with their strategy of what they did last offseason. Yeah. They go, okay, we don't have a ton of operating room. We're sort of in this weird spot with Deshaun Watson's contract and all this other stuff. We're going to take several low-risk moves. We go and get Kenny Pickett. The draft falls in a way that we don't feel good about it. And frankly, I think it worked out better for them the way it did relative to the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. Then they, so they have Kenny Pickett, they draft Dylan Gabriel, and they get Shedeur Sanders. 3 swings. I don't think they are married to any of them. I think if the situation arises, like if, they bring in a quarterback X comes into camp, whether it's draft or free agent, the Browns go through camp and everybody stays healthy, then they will probably end up, we'll see, where these guys are and all this stuff. But if everybody stays healthy, I could easily see them just trade Dylan Gabriel to a team that had an injury, or basically the same situation that came up with Kenny Pickett this year, where, hey, we like Kenny Pickett, but this opportunity came up and we traded him. We like Joe Flacco, but this opportunity came up and we traded him. I think that would be the same mindset they have relative to either of these quarterbacks. Now, obviously, Shedeur Sanders is a little bit different. I don't think the Browns are in a rush necessarily to trade either of these guys. And obviously, there's a cost component there. Like if you trade Shedeur Sanders, at this point, you have to get a profit. And then with Dylan Gabriel, it's, given what he's shown, you're incentivized to keep him, at least to see what he can do next year, to try to build up more value, or at least limit the amount of loss you'd be taking by moving him, because everybody's going to sit there and go, well, they have 4 quarterbacks. They got to move one of them. But nevertheless, I just don't think they're attached. I think they have a very pragmatic approach to the quarterback room with what they've done. I think they just sit there and go, these are assets, and we're going to treat them as assets, and we're going to operate as such. And to your point, if it may not even be a lack of aggression. I mean, I guess lack of aggression could be lack of willingness to put up dollars, or unwillingness to put up capital in terms of trade. Maybe, but I think that's more realistic if you are new coach, new GM, as opposed to current setup, because I think they've got to win football games, and I think they have to try to make this thing as good as possible. And this is where a win this week would help. At this point, I may as well try to sit here and go, well, we ended the season with really tough fight against Buffalo. We came up short, beat Pittsburgh, beat Cincinnati, beating 2 teams in our own division, going out on the high note, so to speak, and building to something. But it's got to build to something. Yeah. And if I don't think you can run into a season. Let's just put it just from a health standpoint. Shedeur Sanders, and he did this a couple times in this game, he scrambled. It just gets decked. Like, what are we doing? That we talked about the 4th and 7 where he throws to Sal Cannella. He scrambles and gets decked 7 yards short of the line of scrimmage. Like, dude, just slide. Like, it's not Aaron Rodgers where you're surrendering a yard short. Like, that's where Aaron Rodgers should have dove head first to get the first down. Yeah, he's 7 yards short. Like, just don't take the hit. And there were a couple of situations where he does this. So, like, if for no other reason, if you're the Browns, you have to sit there and go, I have to look about getting another quarterback, because I'm scared Shedeur Sanders is going to get himself killed. Just the way he plays, and the fact that he had a couple injuries just in practice over the course of the season. Like, I think those are the other considerations where you have to have that. So maybe they're way more confident in Shedeur and Dylan than I am, but I just I don't like getting into optics, because I do think the Browns should just operate in what they think is the best interest of the Browns. But I do think optically that would be pretty rough to just be like, nope, we're just rolling with this.
Well, I feel like they've been setting the table for it. We keep hearing Mary Kay talk about how great Deshaun has been in the
God, stop it.
trait of a leader he's been.
The Browns are not setting that up, to be clear.
What's that?
The Browns are not setting that up.
I'm not saying that it's them or it's not them. I'm just saying I feel like there's enough, crumbs to follow that are going to lead us to this quarterback room. Because look, I'm not a Dylan Gabriel guy. I didn't like the pick at 94, all that stuff. But I'm with you. I think he's a good quarterback. He's just so limited physically that he's never going to be a starting quarterback that you're like good with. He's a spot starter at best. I definitely think he's better than he's shown this year. He's going to be better in the future. His superpower is mental, right? He's cerebral, he's a processor, all that stuff. No rookie's coming to the NFL with that capability. It's just not going to happen. So I definitely think the future is bright for him, but I know that the Browns like him, and I know that the Browns at least have to envision him as a long-term backup. And if you're comfortable starting Shedeur and you like Dylan as a long-term backup, and you've got this $47 million quarterback coach in your quarterback room, I mean, I feel like they've been setting the table for it. They've been telling us that's what they're going to do.
But that's the thing. The owner says differently. I mean, when the owner comes out and calls you a swing and the miss and then does it again, then the owner openly talks about planning to replace you. I think he's sending the signal to everybody else, be like, "You got the green light. Do whatever you want to do." That this did not work. And then as much as I hated Kevin Stefanski constantly asked about Deshaun Watson coming back this year, I always enjoyed watching his face react to it because there was no hint of enthusiasm towards that option at all. And then the other part of it is like, tell me, his agent can tell Mary Kay how great he looks all they want.
Of course.
He is fundamentally a less athletic version of the guy who stunk before.
Yeah.
So what does that translate to? He was terrible.
He was terrible. And he was terrible in the ways that we get annoyed that Shedeur's bad. He can't play on schedule. He holds the ball too much. He thinks he's a better athlete than he is. Deshaun was an absolute disaster.
So part of the problem with Deshaun Watson, if we really want to get into that element, he has to reinvent himself as a quarterback. He has to basically say, I'm not running around. I have to be a pocket passer. I have to be the best pocket passer. He's got to go through that Rocky III montage. He got to go to the gym on the other side of town.
No, it's not even other side of town. He's got to go. He's Rocky IV. He's in the mountains. He's chopping wood. He's got to change everything.
He cannot delude himself in this idea that he's going to create with his legs. It's over. He has had 2 or 3 knees, Achilles,
twice.
If he wants to reinvent himself as a pure pocket passer and suddenly be something he's never really been, okay. But here's the thing: I think the Browns are aware of that more than anybody, and that's why I don't think they're going to stand pat. But and you hear all this stuff about he's got a better attitude. I don't doubt it. Maybe he's got a new lease on life with marriage and all this other stuff. More power to him. But that's the fundamental problem with people are like, oh, Deshaun's just going to be Deshaun again. In what universe? He wasn't Deshaun again ever for the Browns. No. So
he hasn't been Deshaun since what, 2019?
2020.
Yeah.
The same year Kevin Stefanski, and everybody's tired of Kevin Stefanski. The people who want him fired are tired of Kevin Stefanski when Kevin Stefanski was on top of the world as coach of the year and took the Browns to the playoffs. That is the last time Deshaun Watson was good. So
they beat Deshaun that year. He only won 4 games that year.
He sure did. Ugly weather game. My power was out during that game. I had to listen to it in my car. So he has to completely reinvent himself. Is he capable of doing that? I don't know. But
but that's what I'm saying though, Pete. I don't think he's gonna play. I think he is a rock solid part of that room that isn't going anywhere, and he's essentially going to be the veteran. You're going to have Shedeur, you're going to have Gabriel backing him up, and he's the guy with experience to kind of help whatever with the room. And don't get me wrong, I hope that they bring somebody else in, because I don't think Gabriel's anything. And if Shedeur falls flat on his face, then they're going to need somebody. But also, if we're aiming for 2027 anyway, if Shedeur falls flat on his face, I don't want a safety net. What the hell do I need Geno Smith for to win me out of position? I'm just saying. I think Shedeur is the guy, and I want to build around him. But if he's not, we better find him in 2027.
They can't just nosedive and be like, "Well, he's not it. We're done." They cannot do it because at that point now you genuinely run the risk of losing guys that you want to have on your side.
Yeah.
Like Myles Garrett then goes, "What the hell am I doing?"
Yeah.
So like, and
how is Geno Smith going to prevent that?
Because he's credible. He's actually got real ability. He can win football games. He almost beat your defense.
Yeah.
Everything we're talking about depends on them actually getting pieces that impact the offense, that change the offense and make it credible. Well, because in that world, when we talk about like Dylan Gabriel does not elevate the talent around him. He just basically plays at the level the offense is. So like in order for that to work, you have to greatly raise the level. So if they can get, even if they're rookies and they're going to make mistakes, if you can get a lineman that are going to come here and get after people, maybe they'll make some mistakes, but they'll get after people and you can actually run the ball. If you can do those things, if you get another weapon and sort of improve the offense, so it's Harold Fandon was great. You can add another weapon, and Jerry Jeudy is more present in the offense because so much of this, he's doing things that frustrate you with the drops and stuff, but like some of this, just the ball doesn't go to him.
Yeah.
If the running game is legitimate, all these things, if they don't, what are we talking about? They don't need a top of the line quarterback of that to like be a playoff team. They need to be average. Now, is Dylan Gabriel going to be average enough? I don't know. Is Shedeur Sanders going to be average enough? I damn sure know Geno Smith can be average enough because he's taken teams to the playoffs.
Well, again, this comes back to the whole crux of my issue. I would love Geno Smith. I don't necessarily believe that it could happen. I mean, I like the idea of it, but I feel like this is a very crowded quarterback room that he might ultimately choose to go to Arizona or to go to Miami or somewhere along those lines.
At least right now, he's under contract.
Yeah.
So if they trade him, like, get out.
That is, What would you be willing to give up for him? Because if I remember correctly, we both were ready to fire John Dorsey into the sun when he gave up the 3rd round pick for Tyrod Taylor back in 2018. That was a tough one, man. That was a damn good pick they gave up too. And then instead of taking Mark Andrews, he took Chad Thomas, your other favorite, the rapper.
He traded down first.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I'm not giving up that much. And the thing is, the Raiders have no leverage.
Yeah.
Like, they have no leverage. So I have no interest in giving that much. So here's a ham sandwich. 7th round pick in 3 years or whatever. Like, no, I just don't know that there's that much there to be given to him. But like, and you know how Andrew Berry will work. It'd be a pick swap.
Yeah.
Our 3rd round pick for your 4th round pick or something like that in Geno Smith, at which point, fine. I still get to keep my picks. I still have as many picks. I just don't have, as high a pick. Okay. Like that's how I think you make that work to make it reasonable. But, unless the Raiders are just like, screw it, we're cutting him. At that point, all bets are off and he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But then, again, if Geno's not available, if Jacoby Brissett's a free agent, Jacoby's like, I'll come back. Done. Like, I can find guys
really that I will be happy.
Jacoby was pretty good with Arizona.
Yeah.
And maybe he's content to stay there. I don't know what's going to happen with that team. The other part about that is he was here with Deshaun. Like, it's not abnormal for him. And he's a fantastic locker room guy.
Yeah.
Would be great with these quarterbacks. Yeah. So I just don't think it's that heavy of a lift to make that happen, but we'll see. And it's, we'll see on all the other stuff, but like, I just have, and I don't think Jacoby Brissett's going to change the way people look at this quarterback room all that much either. I think Geno Smith would. I think a lot of people would be able to go, oh, the Browns have Geno Smith. Okay, we're serious, as opposed to Jacoby Brissett, but still something. They got to do something to make this room better. Or, or maybe they go big and go Malik Willis. I don't know. I still think that's the unlikely scenario, but they cannot I just have an impossible time believing they'd just be like, nope, Shedeur, you're the dude, and we're just going to roll with it because it's just.
We've seen it happen before recently. We saw Washington do it with Sam Howell. We saw San Francisco do it with Brock Purdy. Obviously, Brock Purdy had a different, rookie season and everything like that. I don't think it's completely impossible. And I mean, I'm with you. I would love to have Geno or Jacoby, or if they could get Mac Jones for a cheap price or something like that. But like ultimately, I want to see Shedeur Sanders play. I want to see what he's truly about. So to me, that's what this offseason is going to be about, is giving him the best boat to captain and see where he can take us. Because like I know that Geno's better than Shedeur right now. I know he is. I know he's going to outperform him in camp, and he's going to be our opening day starter. I don't know if long term that's the best thing for the Cleveland Browns.
Is he?
That's my issue with that.
Is he going to beat him out? That's where I'm at.
Oh, you're talking Shedeur.
Yeah, I mean, like that's my thing. Is like,
and I'm not saying that he is or that he isn't. I'm just merely saying I want to see that unfold more than I want to see Geno Smith as the opening day starter for this team. That's fair.
I guess I would like to have Shedeur earn a real pelt and beat out somebody that you're like that was, and I thought that was an element to the Joe Flacco signing this past year. If one of these rookies was able to come in and beat Joe Flacco as opposed to beating out Kenny Pickett. Yeah. I think you'd have been able to, ooh, wow, he beat Joe Flacco out and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
That would say something as opposed to he beat out Kenny Pickett.
Well, but doesn't that speak to the quarterback position today? Look at Phillip Rivers. They brought in 44-year-old overweight Phillip Rivers to play quarterback, and he's played quarterback at a higher level than a lot of NFL quarterbacks this year. I think it was he went 0-3, and it certainly wasn't pretty, but he made a lot of good decisions, and he played NFL quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. And that goes to show you just how strong of a presence that type of mentality can be at that position. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's impressive that Geno Smith is better than Shedeur right now. I just don't. I need to see Shedeur develop to see what he can turn into. This position, he's an infant as a quarterback. And it shows you guys like Aaron Rodgers at the age of 42 is just so good mentally. It doesn't happen that he's not as good an athlete. His arm doesn't have quite the zip that it used to.
I'm not going to lie. It was fun. It was fun watching Rivers just get up to the line of scrimmage and be like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And it was wide open because he knew exactly what was coming. And I'll be honest. And I said this, was answering something in the forums. I think the Steelers win that game if Aaron Rodgers ran hurry up and called the offense the whole way. Like, I think by waiting around for Arthur Smith, the FedEx air, that it hurt them because it allowed the Browns to do more. I think if Aaron Rodgers went, granted, I don't know how fast the Steelers are with the group they have, but like, where were they the most successful? End of the half, obviously Carson Schwessinger was flipping around,
attacking Schwessinger.
But then it was end of the half and then end of the fourth quarter, and they were moving the ball. Obviously, they got stopped, but like my impression was like Aaron Rodgers at some point, because he did it at that before the half, was basically or at least Tony Romo intimated that he was like, "Shut up, I've got this."
Yeah.
If I was them, I'd just been like, "We're just doing this, the entire fourth quarter, or we're doing this." For the entire third quarter or whatever.
Just call it.
That part of it was awesome. I genuinely did enjoy Phillip Rivers being like, yep, they're doing this, and you go here, and we're going to be just fine. He threw floater ball that just happened. There's nobody there waiting for it. So, I don't know. And that's the other part about that. Like, if Geno Smith is that good or that smart, does that benefit Shedeur Sanders? And the answer to that is I don't know. Or is there somebody else they could bring in? Maybe Deshaun Watson's bringing in that element to him. I doubt it, but he gets glowing reviews. But that's so much of that feels like PR.
Yeah, that's a self-grade.
I mean, yeah. And Tommy Reese seems like he's doing a good job, and Bill Musgrave's been around forever. But I do wonder if there's, if they would miss out by not having it, because clearly, so much of the early part of training camp was like being in awe of Joe Flacco and stories and all this other crap. That's the other part about this. I wonder about, do they want somebody else in there who's, because it's different when it's a coach, different when it's a player who's going through it and doing the stuff as opposed, the coworker as opposed to the authority figure. Mm-hmm. Is that an element that would benefit him? And I don't know the answer to that. And I would love to be a fly on the wall in the exit interviews with the coaches and the players and some of that stuff to get genuine feedback. And who knows? The thing is, Shedeur answers, if you ask him, we might just answer it.
Yeah.
What would sort of help him be better? Look, nothing would make me happier than Shedeur Sanders crushing this offseason and being able to come back and be a much better player. And I've said this all along. I like the way I like him in press conferences because, and again, it sounds like I'm crushing Deion Sanders, and I'm not trying to, because I just think that the world he was operating in was so different. Because with Deion as his head coach and being in college, everything is just, we've got to find a way to win football games, as opposed to necessarily develop the quarterback and the weird offense they were in because of the offensive line and some of the other stuff. You were just sort of like in this weird situation. And Pat Shurmur's not worth anything. We're not okay, Pat Shurmur. I will never forgive you. I just get this impression like Shedeur Sanders is hearing things and learning things he's never even conceived of at this point relative to the quarterback position. And he seems to love every second of it. And I'm reading into that, but just the way he talks in press conferences, the level of excitement he has to the challenges. Whereas in Colorado, I watched all of his press conferences at Colorado. And at times it felt like he was an extension of the organization as opposed to the quarterback of the team. And he had some bad moments where like they got beat by Nebraska and he basically threw his line under the bus.
Yeah, he said, look at his jersey.
And it was just different. It was different because it just felt like he had to be this thing because he was the coach's kid. And now he gets to be the rookie quarterback and truly be a developmental player and all these other things. And it just, I would, if you're somebody who's bored, go back and watch Shedeur Sanders talk in press conferences in Colorado compared to how he talks to press conferences with the Cleveland Browns. I just think there's a different energy with him. And I think that's partly because he's not around his dad anymore. And that's not to say it's negative. It's just different when you've had the same voice telling you all this stuff forever between your childhood and then your entire football career. This guy's been your one constant. I just feel like he loves this situation he's in, which, obviously goes against the people who desperately want to get rid of Kevin Stefanski because they think apparently the NFL is just going to be like, yeah, we're totally just going to roll. The new coach is definitely going to roll with Shedeur Sanders as a 5th-round pick and not want to do something else.
Yeah. Well, and that's, another thing too with Shedeur, Colorado. I feel like that kid had to answer for his father's words every single Saturday. Deion's a talker, man. Deion put the target on that program and the target on Shedeur every single week, and Shedeur had to answer it and then answer questions about it, and he had to do it all with no line and no running game, So it's like, and you say, look at the stark difference between the press conferences at Colorado versus now, and that's just that those are signs of growth. That's a young player going through a lot of different things and coming out better on the other end of it. He's been super impressive off the field. I'm with you. I think we all hope against hope that he figures everything out this offseason. They hit the ground running and they can worry about adding more weapons to the team rather than a quarterback in 2027. But he's at least going to be a part of the conversation to have this opportunity. So if he grasps it, great. That's all we can hope for.
It's got to start with, or I should say, end with, he cannot have a disastrous game to finish out the season. I think this game sets up well for him. I think he can play well. And he doesn't have to win to get that good feeling going out of the season.
But he needs positive momentum.
Certainly help. And if he can, again, the Bengals are not a very good defense. They're certainly lesser than the Steelers. They're certainly lesser than the Bears. They're certainly lesser than the Bills. And it's on the road. That's a little bit different. But I feel like he could play well this week and sort of give you a little juice going into the offseason, which would then bolster the points you're trying to make. But if he goes out there and throws like 3 picks and looks terrible and the Browns lose,
there's gonna be a whole lot of discussion.
Really difficult. And that's not fair because you got to sort of look at body of work. But you know how this thing goes. That last impression matters. So
yes, it does.
If they go out and play well, like I think your scenario looks way better, way more realistic. I think it's there for him. And I don't say this as some trap to then crush him. Like, I genuinely think he can play well this game. And I think, like, they could get some stuff going. Certainly hope Harold Fanning can play that part of it. But, like, I'm hoping for him. Obviously, the Titans game is sort of the high water mark in a lot of ways. But I'm hoping for him he can go out and be like – and I have to think this is the attitude for him. I have to think this is the attitude for guys like Dylan Sampson. I think this has to be the attitude for guys like Isaiah Bond and Malachi Corley and on down the line. On the offensive side of the ball in particular, like, man, we got to go out and play well because nothing is guaranteed for us, and this is our opportunity to, like, go out with a bang.
Yeah, agreed completely. And looks like time's up, guys. I want to thank everybody in the chat for sticking with us. It's always good, always a pleasure. We got Cincinnati this Sunday, last game of the year. Worst case scenario is drafting 7. So at this point, I kind of want to go out on a high note. I want to get another win and hopefully bring back Stefanski and Barry and all that stuff. But either way, Peter, always good, man. Great talking to you as usual. And guys, we'll be back next week, 8 o'clock, Tuesday, same time, same place. For Joe Mazzulla and Pete Smith, you guys take it easy. Thank you for sticking it out, boys. We'll catch you guys later.